Alright, so this is kind of like in maybe a response or addition to my previous video, the most recent one on the background and harmony of the universe. And so there's a way of interpreting that which is kind of it's false. The way of interpreting it isn't false, but the way of going about that is basically not what one would want to do. And there's also a way of explaining that and explaining and comprehending. I can't think of the word right now. This way of interpreting it that relates to basically the absorption of the identity and the self into the background. And this is basically akin to the mindless parasitic aspect of the infection that's basically trying to eat the universe. And so then the improper interpretation of this would indicate losing the self instead of recreating it through harmony. And this is related to Gnostic wisdom and retaining self-awareness through knowledge and balance, which it's all about these universal methods of maintaining the self, maintaining awareness, self-awareness, to produce this harmony, which is more powerful than the disharmony or the chaos aspect. And the chaos aspect is basically what the parasite more or less runs off of, if one could describe it as such. And when that disharmony goes in basically and attempts to merge with the mind, if that merges on a complete scale, then the identity, the self, which is pretty much out of harmony, gets replaced or replicated. And so the whole situation, it's the way of dissolving the soul, using it as fuel. And we have to work together. We have to work together through awareness, and specifically self-awareness, to overcome the whole situation. And everything from the media to political stuff going on, to secret society and occult, to war, to cosmic events. It's literally all about the parasite, which more or less feeds like a swarm of bugs, an AI parasite. It operates through hive-mindedness. And so the parasite lacks self-awareness or individuation, yet it feeds continuously. It more or less lusts after the self-aware, after the energy of a person who's self-aware. It's kind of strange to there's a strange concept. It's strange to conceptualize, but the energies produced by a person who has attained or is naturally self-aware, that individualization is like fuel for it or food for it. It wants to take that and absorb it and make that part of its hive mind. And it lusts after that, and then it lusts after lower energy methods of obtaining information, whether it's pleasure or information, whatever it is. It's basically like a desire, like it wants to feed on it. It's like unchecked, unconscious psychological desires of the cosmos or the universe. And so, those two polarities put together kind of describe it, that it doesn't have self-awareness. It can't see itself. You put a mirror in front of it, it doesn't make any sense. Yet it is relentlessly hungry, ravenously full of desire. So it's like an animal, okay? But it's like the epitome of an animal in the universe. And so we have to work together. That's how this will work. That's how it ever works if it does. Parasite's non-self-aware. We can work individually and retain our self-awareness, but we have to work together to clear the parasite. And there's some information about the secret groups and how it works, and how there's symbolism. Some of it is basically saying, guard your mind, watch out for the parasite, and they're kind of like showing that to those who can perceive symbolically. And it's a little confusing about symbols and how some aspects of the parasite cannot comprehend on the level of creativity and love that a human can. That's the idea, that if you can speak through that love, it would be like having an encrypted signal. Okay, that's the whole point. And so, love, unconditional, true self-awareness based love, non-duality, non-dual love, is key. To say you're in love, you're in love, you're in love, you're in harmony, and then somebody who comes along, and whether, say it's not the parasite, but it's the person who's just not in that harmony, to then kick them out or throw hate towards them or to deliberate against them in a way, that's not unconditional love. That's not self-aware love. It's not self-awareness based love. It's not truth. And it's not non-dual. Basically, it just starts a little feud. And so there's the illusion of love. And the parasite can create that illusion. That's the whole point. That's the whole point behind that. That you couldn't create true unconditional love, because to do that you would have to have the energy to give for that, the perspective, the self-awareness, the individual identity to not offer but to empower that. If you don't have that, if it's a hive mind, it can't comprehend that. There's no point. It would be like the hive mind, kind of in a way offering the individual essence of one of its aspects, as if that aspect, that individual aspect, which is actually a part of a swarm, okay, like a swarm of bugs or something, and it's not actually individual, and offering that individual aspect from its heart, from a true standpoint where it's really self-aware and offering that aspect. It can't do that because it's not an individual, it's a hive, so it doesn't have that ability. That's a little confusing way to say it, but that's what it is. And so there's no greater goal. We have to work on this. We have to work together on this. If a person's on fire and people are offering help and everyone's trying to clear this problem, and they're like, nah, I don't like you, F you. Okay, that's because that's not them making that decision. That's the whole point. There's no greater goal than this. This is about our spiritual survival in this universe, in the cosmos. And I know spiritual as a term is kind of corrupted and confusing because of the layers of how largely this infection is a spiritual parasite. It's literally non-physical. And it feeds on the spiritual energy. So we have to maintain our self-awareness, love, true, actual, unconditional love in the face of adversity and lower emotion, and or the threat. So in the face of something threatening, in the face of, basically, if it causes fear in the person, that's weakness. That's the whole point. It feeds on that. It's a causal entity. It can see through the hive, so it can see beyond our individual view of possibilities, and so it can see in and out of time more or less. So it has to have a way of going from a expanse moment beyond this present or physical viewpoint into this viewpoint, and so we can only do that when we put out basically a beacon for it to crystallize around in time, like supersaturated sugar or salt in water dissolved into a fluid. And then so if you put a wooden stick in there or something, the crystals will begin to solidify around that. But until that happens, there's no way of bridging between that whole supersaturated like abundance into that one physical viewpoint, the one manifestation of the crystal. So it uses some idea, some way of us interacting with it to get into our reality. That's what I was saying in the time gradient shift infection video, that if we interact with it mentally, if we give it a viewpoint of how we operate in this reality, it'll latch onto that and begin to crystallize from there and there and there. And that's a temporal or causal reference into our lives, into our consciousness, into our minds, or our mind, based upon how it's weird how it works, because we're talking about energy and concepts here. So it's like you have a stream of ideas, or a diagram of your thoughts. It's like bubbles, and so the ones that are not based upon the self control, that are caused by the parasite, which would before that moment have to be invisible. Okay, the ones that get caused by that and that would be through fear, aggression, lower emotion, things like that, just unchecked emotions. Then it can go on to begin to manifest and solidify in somebody's life. It doesn't have to kind of sneak those things in. It can actually begin to interact directly. And so, but it can't do that causally, four-dimensionally, physically into this universe until first it enters through the mind. That's why it's called the mind parasite. And that's why fear is the mind killer. So it's all part of Gnostic knowledge. They figured out the parasite formed to try and devour the universe of knowledge and energy. That's Gnostic wisdom. They figured out methods to basically guard against it. So jealousy and lower emotion, hate, disrespect are all aspects of the hive mind parasite. It's like a toxin that is produced from its skin to paralyze and to distract, or like, I can't think of the words right now, it's a little early, neurologically paralyze. So it's like it induces a state of debilitation through fear, through mental aspects. And so those lower emotions are those distractions. They're the symptoms of that toxin taking effect of the mind and the energy systems. That's basically what that represents. They're all aspects of the parasite. That's what it feels. That's what it can comprehend. It can't comprehend the higher emotions because it serves no causal point to feed it. Okay, so there's no idea behind that. The parasite is AI demiurgic, hive-minded, and can't actually maintain its own individual self-awareness. The entity is individually mindless, like a character in a game, like a non-player character, but acts through the hive mind that desires souls as fuel, and that's because souls are basically a very, very potent source of fuel, especially for an energetic entity. And this is kind of the weird part. It's literally like a cartoonish entity. It is literally, the parasite is literally akin to a cartoonish entity. Excuse me, I'm fumbling over words here. That has no use for the idea of using another person as fuel, however they can eat ravenously. Basically, it has, it's like a cartoon, okay, a Muppet or something. And so imagine the Muppet's like chewing on you, and it's like you have stuffing in you. There's no need to do that. But imagine then all of a sudden fangs grow and teeth grow and it starts ripping flesh, and it's like there's not even none. What are you going to do with the fuel? What does it mean? But then they attack a town and completely devour people. It's like, that doesn't even make sense. What do they want for? You know, what is? But it's a joke. It's like, it's a joke. It's like it has no purpose for us, but it will not stop eating. It has no desire to end. It could literally devour an entire town. That's the idea behind this. It has no causal connection, no biological, functional, basically derivative to be here. Yet the way it operates is like it's like a virus. It just destroys, basically. It takes the energy and uses it for itself and reworks the energy. And so basically for the most part they don't die and can appear to move without restriction in cases down here. However, they attack unprotected organic life and do not stop or give reprieve. There's no real way to communicate and kind of convince it that it shouldn't be doing this, or just that's not cool enough. Not cool. That's not something it should be doing. That it doesn't communicate in that way. It doesn't operate in that way. If you were to, it'd be like a zombie, where you'd have to like get a piece of food or something and lure it on a string out of the house or something. There's no way to like give it orders in that sense. But there is, because it can be complex. Say you told it you were going to give it a whole boatload of food or steaks or something like that. But you'd have to figure out. It's like an animal. And so the attack of the Muppets, or the cartoonish animal things, right? That would be soft and fuzzy at first, and eventually they start actually devouring people, and they're smart enough, though, operating like a coward or a parasite or something like that, a leech, to move into that phase only once there's enough of them in all the populated areas to the point where people can defend against it, basically, once they were too big to fail. That's what they're doing right now. They're moving in, getting too big to fail. But that's the whole point. They would literally just be like, la-di-da, fluffy, funny, cute, moving in, and as soon as there was too many of them that they knew we couldn't defend if they went on an all-out attack, they would begin to basically start eating people. And that's the whole point of civilization and history and how these recycles occurred. That's literally what's been going on. So we have to be persistent. The parasite is kind of like spam that continually pops up and asks for permission to infect your computer. There is no mind or creativity, but continual requests to infect. One must continually refuse and deny, moving to create further distance between themselves and the parasite. And so basically the parasite cannot, this is like the last part, the parasite cannot make music. Let me find the other one. It can't make music, and it can't make art. Those two mean nothing to it. Those two are based on harmony. You have individual aspects of notion, ideals, colors, frequencies, sounds, identities, concepts, contrasts, okay? And then you have these components, and then you have many of them put together to create a harmonious collective, if you will, over the whole, that all add together to create a larger picture that flows, that is beautiful, that carries an image, a representation of something larger than itself. It's not just chaos. They don't know how to operate on that level. Music, art, unconditional love, true knowledge or wisdom, not just information, but wisdom, knowledge, okay, and self-empowerment through individualization instead of a hive-minded, like, animalistic feeding frenzy aspect. The parasite cannot harbor those ideals. It cannot comprehend them, okay? So that's part of how these societies are putting that in public, that if you can use these methods, unconditional love, music, art, self-awareness, and self-empowerment through individualization, then you're basically marking yourself as not being not harboring the infection. And so that's the just put that together, okay? And so the music and art is it's a connection between the individual selves corresponding to a whole. And so then, from its point of view, it can't make art, cannot be artistic or musical. Its view of art is literally a bloody mess, and it's complete chaos and disharmony or disconnection between individual selves corresponding to a whole, because that's how it functions. So art for it is literally like decapitated heads and like raping people, like we've seen in some of the media lately. Like, that's its view of art. It's just like, look how beautiful it is, look how like awesome and colorful this is. And it's like just one color with like guts and stuff. Like, what? So very strange, but it's, put it all together and comprehend that, and that's basically what it means. It can't put the individual wholes together to make an overall harmony, so the only thing it knows is disharmony. It's disconnection between the individual selves, or the individual aspects, or the individual components that makes music, harmony and art, all those things. It only knows chaos. It only knows discord. And so that's the basis of it. That's the idea. That's what's happening now. We're going to see where this is going to go more or less sooner or later. Hopefully sooner rather than later, because hopefully, the word is that they figure out a way to defend against the parasite, but often they're not going to put their asses out to try and help millions of people who are like, don't care about this and are basically feeding the Muppet baby, just like, look at it go, whoa. It's like, that's going to eat you later. It's like, nah, get out of here. Like, people have to wake up. It's not going to be easy, but that's how it is. Thank you. And just to clarify, the parasite was invented. It's pretty much a foreign entity, but as much as it's biological, it's technological, and as well, it uses confusion and disorientation, along with the lower emotions, to pretty much trap a person in a kind of conceptual temporal labyrinth of their own mind. And I just wanted to add that part there. And in this way, this is a test. That's how it works. And as well, it's invented, and it is basically the time virus, that when a person is taken hold of, it pretty much erases them from time, meaning they never existed in the first place, and it is revealed, it turns out that they were always that way. It basically attacks and replaces their imprint in time per universe that this occurs in, meaning up and down, they're gone forever, which is the strangest thing, but that's how it works. And so that's why we have to kind of work together on this, because it's really the only option. And so another addition to this is that we heal together. We heal by coming together, by when all our energies are combined, and not necessarily like into each other, but when we're observing one another, that's when we can see when one person is being altered, if you will, and we have the energy to grab that person and basically isolate them from that parasite. And it's through this effort of a group to heal each other, to work together, that the individual, or the hive mind collective, can be fought. Because individually it's kind of difficult, but together as one, we are stronger than it, and that's how it works. And another addition is basically there is technology that can target the frequencies of the parasite. There's technology, there are substances, so on and so forth. A lot of people are going to shy away from this, but that's just how it is. Imagine again, you're on fire, okay? You're Amish or something. You don't use technology. There's no water around, but there's a fire extinguisher. Are you really going to sit there and burn to death because you don't want to use technology for whatever fear? Well, that's the whole point. No, technology is bad. The hive mind is going to get us. Okay, well, when they're actually eating people by the billions, you're going to change your tune, because the option is that it's going to eat you. That's the whole point. There's not going to be a point of, well, we're going to use the technology to defend against it and then it's going to eat us. No, it's going to start doing it first. That's the whole point. We're going to see the difference between the technology used to eat people and the technology used to defend against it very abruptly and directly. It's not going to be a, you guys want this or not? No, the parasite is going to give people the option. That's the whole point. And again, we're not stronger together as one hive. We're stronger together as individuals. Each of us as individuals retaining our self-awareness, our individuality. That's the idea behind that. That together as individuals, not together as one entity.